Hello, friends. We're back with another one. Jason, Tyler. If you didn't see the last video that we did together, then you should check it out because it was a fun discussion on Knock at the Cabin. But today is
not fun.
Yeah, significantly less fun discussion because we are talking about the Snyder Cut of the Justice League. Now, Jason, people watching right now do not know your aversion to this movie. The fact that I've been trying to get you to watch it since it aired.
I think before it even got announced, you were talking about me watching it.
Yeah, I think as soon as the rumblings even came up, because Jason and I have a mutual dislike for Zack Snyder and his style of filmmaking, and particularly in the DC universe, to the point that Jason has only seen Man of Steel.
Yeah. Yep.
You saw Green Lantern.
I did see Green Lantern. So specifically the Snyder DC stuff, it's been Man of Steel.
That is insane. That is I guess technically, yeah, Man of Steel was after Green Lantern. So, yeah, there's Wonder Woman he's missed out on. You watched Suicide Squad.
I did see I saw the James Gunn Suicide Squad. So that was my window back into the world of DC.
So that means that you did not have the reference point of Batman versus Superman. So, but when we watched, I was explaining as to stuff that happened. So there's still, I think that you don't even really need to have seen the other films, and it still makes sense. But also, it needs to be said that Jason has not seen the Joss Whedon version of Justice League.
No, and I probably will not now that I've seen a 4-hour version of the story.
But that's the thing. That's the thing in terms of the Joss Whedon one, is that it's like 90 minutes. It might be 100 minutes, but it feels like 90 minutes. It's super quick. It's filled with dumb jokes, and like Batman has so many quips. Pretty much everyone has quips. Everyone has the same voice in the movie, where everyone like talks like Joss Whedon because he's trying to do the Avengers thing. And so versus like in the Snyder Cut, they pretty much have their own, like they talk like how you would expect them to talk. I mean, it's terrible, but they talk how you would expect, and not having Batman saying like one-liners and stuff. So I would say don't be averse to it entirely. You're just averse to it because you just sat through 4 hours of Zack Snyder's masterpiece.
I can get a condensed version if I ever need to.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing too, is that the two versions are very, very different, and I kind of forget how different they are. I knew that we were going to be watching the Snyder Cut because Jason was going to be coming up, and so in preparation, I threw on the Joss Whedon Justice League. I say threw on because I did not watch. Like, it was just on. And yeah, there's a lot of, like, it's a completely different movie, to the point that there's quite a few elements in the Snyder Cut towards the end where I'm like, oh yeah, this is actually like, this would be good if it was like pared down with other things. But the best thing about the Whedon version is it's all so bad in the most glorious of ways. Like, it is not good. It's when the movie ends, you're like, well, I guess that was it.
That was a thing.
But I will say, at least with the Snyder Cut, when it ended, it's like, oh, well, that's too bad, because there are interesting things set up, but you have to it's such a long journey to get there. Okay. There were, 6 parts plus an epilogue?
Oh, jeez.
Like, that's too much. It's too much, especially when the titles of the parts were just a joke. Like,
yeah, there wasn't really any rhyme or reason to why they were called what they were called.
I can't remember. The chapter 1 was my favorite because it was something with Batman in the title. It was some like stupid statement towards Batman. I wish I had written it down.
The one I just remember is Change Machine. That'll always be the one.
Yeah, Change Machine. Like that was all. That's all. Every single time a new title would pop up, it would just be like, what?
Okay.
What? And then you watch the part it's in, and most of the time it's like it's either super on the nose or like really dumb.
Yeah.
I think they say change machine.
They do straight up call the mother box a change machine. So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like Zack Snyder thinks things are deeper than they actually are.
When it's like it's like a 12-year-old's kind of naming scheme, because that in particular, like you said, it's about the mother box, and so why not just call it like the mother box, or just call it like something that then indicates what it's about, rather than like this stupid naming scheme. I don't know. That in particular really bugged me.
If you don't call it a change machine, then people won't understand that you can use it to change things.
I guess that is very true. Very, very true. So let's go through. We'll try and think like through chronologically through the movie, but a lot of that stuff in the first 2 hours, I can't it's such a blur.
There's so much unnecessary stuff that it's like one of the most like cliche examples of like, yeah, you could have just cut a lot of this filler.
Yes. There is so much that like would have easily been cut if this had been and it would probably end up being 2.5 hours in theaters. But it's not a case of, oh, what would they cut? There's just so much precious material. It's like, if anything, you could cut an absurd amount. You could just cut. Pretty much all of the Aquaman stuff is pointless.
Oh, gosh.
Which is very unfortunate, because Aquaman, the Jason Momoa Aquaman is very entertaining. So it's disappointing that all of that could be cut and nothing would really change. And then like the Wonder Woman stuff, it gives background, but that's about it. But then we still have to suffer through Gal Gadot barely able to like say her lines. She can barely speak English. Like,
that was a time. There were multiple times where I wish we'd had subtitles on, because there were a few lines where it like really changed the meaning of what she was saying if I thought she said what I thought she said.
I'll always love the line reading of, I guess it's further towards the end, but when they're with Superman, she's like, Kal-El, no! It is the worst line reading, and I know it's been clowned online a bunch, so I'll tell you this, Jason, so that was a line that Zack Snyder purists were certain that Joss Whedon was like because the whole theory is that Joss Whedon and Gal Gadot did not get along, and that Whedon purposely chose bad takes in the Whedon version of her in order to
like make her look bad.
Yeah, and like he directed her bad. However, it was revealed that nothing in the Snyder cut is directed by Whedon. Nothing. There's not a single shot.
Oh.
And guess what is in the Snyder cut?
It's still in there.
It's still in there, and it's the same.
Oh,
I think it might even be a slightly different line, like a line reading.
So there were multiple times where she specifically said Kal-El, and like it just sounded so weird.
Yeah, she just can't speak English worth a shit, which I don't understand. I mean, she's supposed to be like Amazonian, yet. Is that like, why does she sound like Israeli? It's very strange. I don't understand what their logic leap is there. But then what about the Iceland, the women singing to Aquaman?
That. Just every little moment like that. Like, yeah, why did that need to go on for 5 minutes at least? And it all adds up to make it like there's probably an hour of just like, yeah, little 5-minute moments that don't need to be in this.
Having so much. And I love too, they have the Amazonians, the way that they're gonna get a message to Wonder Woman, and they don't even say Wonder Woman. They don't even say Diana. They're just get the message to the humans, and their solution is to fire a flaming arrow. It lands in a temple and lights the ground on fire, which then Diana is gonna then go see that, go all the way there, pick up and take the arrow, and put it on a
it's like a
wall,
an arrow-shaped hole in the wall.
Yeah, that then it'll magnetically attach to and open up a whole new secret passageway. It is so convoluted for then her to go in and read a bunch of hieroglyphics and essentially just discover that, oh, my mom already knows all the stuff that's going on and she's really inept at her job.
Someone could have just said something to her. Like, she did such a long amount of effort to read a thing.
And then they don't, they act like they don't know what's happening, the Amazons, and yet it's revealed later in the movie that they've fought this exact threat before.
And not even just like the Amazonians as like a people, like literal people that were there are alive.
Yeah, the exact people. Like, they should remember. Yet instead they're like, oh, this box, it's doing something. If anything, it's like, we need to prepare for Darkseid and these parademons. Yeah, instead, it's like when it happens, the parademons just start fucking shit up. And I don't think I've ever seen I keep calling them Amazonians because I can't remember what if they have like a different title. But they are so incompetent in this movie. They can't do anything. They really can't do anything. They keep getting taken out with the most simplest of tasks. And like at one point, this lady dies from a horse falling on her.
That was so confusing. I still don't know.
And it's already been established that these people have like super strength. So like they could have easily just lifted the horse off with one arm. There's very strange choices.
It's just always that Zack Snyder thing of like, well, these people are real tough, but what if there was someone even tougher than them? And he doesn't know how to convey that, like where it doesn't look goofy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they finally get some like real beefy, thick Amazon girls in there. Yet they're like kind of short, so it's like we finally got something, and yet it's kind of like a give and take. You can never just do it full board. It's always like, no, we need these women still need to be model looking. It's like, what? They don't need to all look like Victoria's Secret models.
But he's got to do the nice slow motion shots of everything, and so everybody's got to look like a model.
The slow motion is out of control in this movie.
It is egregious. I hope somebody out there has taken a timer and just counted all the amount of time of this movie that's in slow motion.
I think that would always be funny to see a Zack Snyder movie just like in full speed, and just to see like what the narrative changes are to it, like, and how much the runtime changes, because I mean and I should say as well, there's slow-mo that makes sense because the Flash.
That stuff was great. Yeah, that was really done well.
And it almost feels like it's because, so with Superman, Superman's a character that feels like Zack Snyder just does not understand in any way. No. And I would say Batman too, to an extent. He seems to think he's just like this vigilante that like kills criminals. And
he got really into Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
And then never read another Batman story.
Yeah, which I love me some Frank Miller, but Frank Miller really pushes Batman to extremes that he isn't in most other comics. So it's I always have felt that Snyder just doesn't understand. Oh, and also too, Wonder Woman. He very clearly just does not understand Wonder Woman. Aquaman too, but it kind of worked out for that because I feel like Aquaman was kind of boring, and so making him a like Pacific Islander kind of really helped him.
Yeah.
But the Flash, it finally seems like a character that Zack Snyder understands. I don't know what it is about him that other than the slow-mo obviousness of he Zack Snyder loves slow-mo. He thinks in slow-mo, so just the Flash, it works with him.
Yeah, like kind of like the wide-eyed, like new to everything, like just almost like Peter Parker, just like I'm a team player and I'm gonna do this, like kind of thing. Worked well.
So I'm curious because you haven't really. This is your first experience with Ezra Miller's Flash, and you've mostly just seen the controversies that have gone on and all the insanity. So, what's your opinion of Ezra Miller as Barry Allen?
It's good. Like, yeah, I guess that just makes all the controversy stuff even more disappointing because it's like, well, you're doing such a good job, and you supposedly would have a really long tenure as this character. So you'd hope that like they can get their act together before it like makes them being the Flash like less tenable.
Yeah, I agree. I think he was an odd choice at first that then has really blossomed into the role. And I think that's the thing too, is I think that there is a I think it's like the kind of the CW crowd that if your only experience with the Flash is the CW version of Barry Allen, then you would probably be disappointed. But I'll just say the CW version of Barry Allen is very much different from the comics. And in any representation I've ever seen him in, he's much more even keeled in that. He's much more he's more of a generic superhero versus like Flash in the comics is much more of a quipster, much more of a
more of an easygoing kind of person.
But I think Ezra works better as Barry Allen than Grant Gustin, I think is his name.
That sounds right, yeah.
And it's just because of what they're clearly the creators of CW, the Flash CW. That's what they wanted for their Barry Allen. So I like that we finally get more of a Barry Allen that feels like Barry Allen to me. Because that's also the issue too, is that once you start introducing other, like Green Lantern and Barry Allen have a lot of similarities in their personalities. Yeah. But it's also fun. It's a big reason why they they'll pair them up, and they don't seem to get along because they have such clashing personality. Like they're too similar. So that kind of thing would be interesting to see explored, especially because obviously Ryan Reynolds is not. He's not Green Lantern, but you could see them interacting.
Yeah, like somebody with that type of personality
would
work well off of Ezra Miller, I think. And just the potential for what you could do with the Flash. Not just even Green Lantern, but Flash is responsible for some really major storylines in the DC universe. So that's a huge linchpin right there of a character.
Yeah, and I will say that I feel like we've seen a lot of celebrities that have fucked up, and then they kind of just double down. And it seems like Miller is trying to do right. So whether that is just Warner Brothers getting him in a padded cell and they're like, you need to get this figured out, or if he's doing it on his own, or I'm not good with all that. But I'm a person that I'll give someone a second chance, and I'm not personally invested, so it's I like his Barry Allen, and I've heard all the rumblings of that new Flash movie are that it is one of the best superhero movies ever made. So I don't want to then have to go turn around and have a new Flash.
Yeah, I mean, they do have a really easy out if they really wanted to. If they're building up this universe, you just end it with Infinite Crisis and have him do the sacrifice thing and be like, okay, well, he had an ending and he's wrapped up.
But that's also the issue, is that this story is the infinite or it's the what's Flashpoint.
Yeah.
This is the Flashpoint story, so this is their opportunity to do any kind of change, yet they kind of need to gauge the public, so their reaction to Miller first. Yet, you know what I mean, where it's they have to have a completed movie and an ending, yet they kind of have to see how the audience would react to that. Yeah. But I think they can also I think that the standard audience has proven that they are capable of understanding a multiverse.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's not a massive confusion like everyone thought it would be. Marvel's done a good job of getting people acquainted with this. And also, shout out to Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
With normalizing and making it more of a standard where people get it. Because I've seen some complaints, too, about, like, the new DC Elseworlds logo.
Oh.
Where it's like, thought the whole point of Gunn and Safran taking over was to, make everything more in line and more succinct and more like more together, more of a universe. And it's like, yeah, they are doing that. But I also don't want to lose Matt Reeves' Batman or Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. So it's like, just and also too, and this is something that I wish that the Marvel side would do. If you have someone that comes in with a great idea, but they're like, I don't think it works in the MCU, then there should be a label that then they can just establish of like, okay, this is different. Because it sounds like they're having a lot of trouble with Blade.
Oh, yeah. That thing is, yeah.
And I think one of the biggest issues is that it's in the MCU. So it's like, make it an Elseworlds story, like whatever Marvel would call it, and make it so it's not connected to the MCU. I think it's a good idea for DC, and I think it's something that could potentially really help them out and separate them in a positive way.
Yeah, really lean into that aspect of it. Like, they are, I mean, I feel like when you think of DC already, just because they don't have, like, this connected universe, like, it does feel almost like they've got an Elseworlds built in already, because it's like, all these movies are so desperate, so different, plus you got the animated stuff they do, like, it's built to be like that.
And the animated, it's a very, very, very dedicated, hardcore fan base for the DC animated side. Marvel does not really have that.
No, not at all. Yeah.
And so, like, the DC fandom, it's already kind of built in. Which I also understand, too, that, like, these aren't really for the fans in terms of, they already know these fans are going to go regardless. They're trying to make sure they can bring in other people and appeal to the wide audience as possible, which I think is also why Zack Snyder did not work, because he's just so niche.
Yeah, like there were so many neat ideas in the Snyder cut. Like it's just like, would this really carry for like an entire franchise of a film series, or is this really just like a neat little one-off idea you've got? Like, because half the time he doesn't even put in the effort to really develop any of the ideas. Yeah,
it's just kind of stuff just kind of happens, and they don't have a good. Well, okay, I want to talk about something positive with the film, in that I really liked how in the action scenes you actually saw some team ups amongst the characters. It doesn't, because you're bringing these characters together, so I don't want to see them fighting individually and like doing their own, like you can do it for like a moment, but you need to bring them together. And the Justice League does not do that. It's really bad about that. And so I liked that element. So I'll tell you, Jason, in the Justice League, they have that scene where Cyborg's dad gets saved.
Oh yeah.
But in the Snyder cut, Cyborg immediately, as soon as they even know what's happening, Cyborg sees his dad, starts saving. In the Justice League, they like stay up top and are like debating, and like they like there's a bunch of quips back and forth. And, like, I'm pretty sure a few people die.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, where it's like, these are terrible superheroes. Like, just the worst. And so I liked that they felt like heroes.
Yeah, like every single one of those scenes where they had to do something, everyone had a part to play. It wasn't like, like the crawler thing, it could have just been easy. Like, Cyborg took the Nightcrawler thing over and just did everything. But it's like each person had to contribute to get them out of that situation.
Oh my! Speaking of the crawler, so I guess this is a different time with the crawler, in that this is just them climbing up, and they have Batman. Batman, they show him climbing. He's like the last one up, and all I could think was like, did you guys just wait for him to get to the top? Because everyone else can either fly or has super speed or can jump like super high. So it's like, why did like Superman not just fucking carry him up?
Yeah, like knowing where people were at any given moment could get kind of tricky.
Yeah, but also that's a Snyder thing in terms of blocking. That was poorly done. They could have very easily had Batman pop up, because it's happened a million times, because he uses his little Gatling gun, not Gatling, the grappling gun that like brings him up. Like, he's always moving up quickly with that way. But
you could even make it a nod to the games where he does the little kick up kind of thing.
Yeah, so that him like slowly, and like Affleck looks like he can barely move in the suit. It's so funny to me.
That was definitely kind of odd that like he seemed to move from like very rigid and unable to do much to then like they maybe put a different suit on, like, or like the stunt part of it like wore a different thing. So then he was like very agile when he needed to be.
Yeah, I think some of that is probably the stunt man. Was probably that was, because I know the stunt man did a lot of in suit work for it, because I think that at the time Affleck had like back issues.
Yeah, there was some kind of health thing.
Yeah, I remember, because that's why his he's like plumper in this movie than he is in Batman versus Superman. But I also know he was like drinking a lot.
Yeah, he definitely sounded like he was going through some stuff in general.
Yeah, so it's hard to really pin down in terms of that. I don't know what his personal life was like, and I don't want to speculate. One aspect that I want to talk about is the Flash reversing time, and this is literally the one thing I've been waiting for you to see in particular, because I think it's so cool, and is like it's probably the coolest thing that DC has done to this point.
Yeah, that felt like the most epic thing.
Yeah, and we literally like got to see all these superheroes die and then get brought back. Like, that's cool.
Brutally too.
Really brutally. They show them, like, we get to see skull and like bone and flesh like getting disintegrated, and it was quite impressive.
Bless you.
Woo! Apparently, talking about this is an allergy inducer.
I'll say though, like that moment, it felt like the closest, like that original Superman, like the Christopher Reeve Superman, like when he flies around the world and reverses time and stuff. That was like a whoa, that's crazy moment. And yeah, it's kind of similar with like reversing time, I guess, in a way. But like that was really neat of just like, okay, like this is like you can like just straight up alter reality and like really do some stuff, and also just the teasing of like Flashpoint and his ability to travel through time. Like that was a nice setup for that.
I think comic book people understand that the Flash is one of the most powerful characters, yet I think it's hard to get that point across to like just a standard movie audience, and yet this gets that point across in a way that I never expected. They do it in one scene of clarifying of like, oh, Flash is like the most powerful of all these people. It's like Superman, I mean, he might be able to potentially, we've seen him turn back time with the Earth, original, but we also don't know in terms of the Time Force. Just adds a whole different element.
Yeah, because that wasn't even a thing when they did that in that original movie. So yeah, like can Henry Cavill Superman? I don't know if he can go that fast.
Yeah, I don't think so. There's always been that debate of like the Superman versus Flash thing, and they actually do it at the end of the Justice League.
Oh yeah, I did see that. That was one clip that made its way to me.
Yeah, that's very, very silly. Well, and that's another thing, dude. You have to watch the Justice League just to see the Henry Cavill mustache.
Oh, I missed out on all of the fun, weird digital lip.
Oh, it's amazing. Not only that, but you get it right off the bat. It is the first scene in the movie.
That was definitely like a thing that, like, I feel like most of the things that people really made fun of this movie for, and all the memes and all of that stuff, even after the Snyder Cut came out, they still dunk on the Justice League version of the movie.
Yeah. Seems like there's still, like, I don't consider the Snyder Cut to be good, but it has good elements. I think there's some good elements. Meanwhile, like, the Justice League, I consider it bad all around. It's just not well done.
Okay, maybe I'll have to check it out for comparison.
Yeah, because also Jason's similar to me in that, like, we both like the so bad it's good genre. So I think it fits very, very, very well into that. And also, I will say that, and if you were not aware, Jason, How Did This Get Made covered the Snyder Cut.
Oh, okay.
About like 2 years ago. Though it's I feel like it's a very weird episode in that, like, I think that they have like 2 guests on it that like the movie.
Oh.
And I think that everyone is kind of like, they don't want to make fun of it a ton, but they talk about it for like 2.5 hours, I feel like.
It's so much stuff you could talk about. like even if you don't know superheroes or any of that stuff, like, if you watch that and actually took it in, you would have so many questions, like
breaking it down. And I know that when this came out, there was some YouTubers that, I mean, they got so much content out of this because there's a lot of things to talk about in terms of the weirdness of it all. Because it's all over the place. It's constantly, like, especially even, I think the most all over the place is the epilogue.
That was
where
bizarre.
They're going fucking nuts. Deathstroke pops up. Lex Luthor pops up.
Dream sequences.
Yeah, dream sequences that make very little sense. They're setting up the Ben Affleck Batman solo movie that doesn't happen. There's just
Martian Manhunter gets to show up again.
Yes.
Like, basically cheesing, like, Justice League, like, out in space to some degree, I guess. But, like, what end?
Well, and it's also really stupid because that was Snyder just filling a spot because it was originally supposed to be Green Lantern.
Oh, yeah.
They filmed it as Green Lantern in that spot. So then it's like, it also proves I don't know why the prior DC heads had such an aversion to Green Lantern. In particular, because Jeff Johns was one of the heads.
He has such a huge involvement.
Yes.
Like, how has he not convinced them to do it? How has he not shown them the way?
He's written some of the biggest, like, stories in Green Lantern, like Blackest Night and all that.
Yeah, like, he's the reason really Green Lantern got big again. Like, because I'm pretty sure he's responsible for Red Lanterns and all this whole spectrum. Like, yeah.
So I don't know if it's a thing of that he just, like, wanted to do it himself, so then he kept, like, pushing it off, or I don't know what it didn't. Maybe he didn't like Snyder and didn't think he would do it well, which I understand that. I'd be very concerned if I had a important character that, like, have helped out and have all these great stories for, where then it's like, I don't want this guy to ruin all of these amazing stories. Because that's the thing to think too, is that if Jeff Johns stories get adapted, then, I mean,
do you want it attached to the
but also
Dark Knight?
That's big money for him. So it's like he probably is thinking of it more in future way. He doesn't want Snyder to completely ruin it all, because I mean, there's some wonderful Superman stories, and yet Snyder essentially killed the Superman character. So
much potential. I guess that's really this movie and just Zack Snyder's DC run in general. It feels like there was so much you could have done, and he just chose to do, like, the weirdest things with it.
Yeah, he essentially wanted to do his own thing and didn't seem to care about other people's opinions. Because it's like he did the Doomsday, like the Batman versus Superman and Death of Superman in one goddamn movie.
Just take a story that like is one of the biggest parts of Superman's life and make it just like a plot point, like at the end.
Yeah, that then like gets lazily wrapped up in the next one. Which also, okay, so one of the biggest aspects of Death by Superman, that story, is the aftermath and what happens to the world of like Metropolis. There's all these other Supermen that then pop up. There's a lot of cause and effect to it. Yet here, what the fuck's the cause and effect? We still see all of these superheroes that they're on top of everything. Like they're still doing their thing. They're still protecting the world.
And we don't even get a hint that like anyone's really trying to fill the void of him being gone. Like there could have been like, even if it was just a minor Easter egg, just like throw a nod to like Bizarro. Like, oh, they're trying to make their own Superman and it went horribly wrong. Like, that could have been something.
There are many ways that they could have made it very interesting, but they did not. Oh, and that's, speaking of Bizarro, they even had it set up because of the whole reason, because you didn't see Batman versus Superman. Doomsday is built by Lex Luthor from Zod's body, where it's like, okay, failed the first time. Luthor still has all this stuff that's all his data from the first time. You would assume that he would then just try and make another one.
Like maybe even just start from scratch this time.
Yeah,
like,
and this time you make Bizarro.
Yeah.
Like,
like it went all wrong.
Yeah, there's so many ways to do it. Which also, wasn't Bizarro rumored to be, or no, Brainiac was rumored to be the villain in the Henry Cavill Superman movie that was announced for all of like 5 minutes before Gunn and Safran came in.
Oh, poor Cavill.
But did you see that they're still doing that Ta-Nehisi Coates Black Superman?
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah,
I didn't know. I kind of wondered what happened to that in the midst of all this news.
Yeah, they announced it as an Elseworlds.
Okay, well,
story.
So that I guess that's a good. If you want to do a story that doesn't fit canonically, put it over there.
Yeah, which I find interesting. But that's also, so they've also announced a Supergirl. This has kind of turned into a bit of a DC thing, but they announced a Supergirl movie as well. But they've said that they don't know if Sasha Calais is, because that's the girl who's Supergirl in the Flash movie.
Yeah.
They've said that they don't know if she's going to be their Supergirl. And I think the whole reason for that is because I think she was made Supergirl because DC had this black Superman in development. So that was their plan. Their plan before hiring Gunn and Safran was they were going to be doing Black Superman. So, of course, it makes sense if you're doing Black Superman, you have a Black Supergirl. Yeah. So I think that is part of the reason why they're like, we don't know if we're using her because we don't know what we're doing with this quite yet. Yeah. But I don't have any attachment to the Supergirl character, so
no, not really.
It doesn't really affect me. I like the silly movie with Helen Slater, but it's not good. It's really, really stupid.
That one's sweet. In a weird, earnest way.
I agree. I had to do a deep dive on it for DC Revisited. If you're interested in that, check it out. I'll put it in the description below. But I'm trying to think, what other aspects?
I guess the question would be like, would we want them to come back to this? Like, in 10 years, are we going to be like, will we get past all this, like, annoyance that we had with this? And they'll be like, hey, guys, the Zack Snyder version of the Justice League is coming back. Like, would that be something?
Personally, I don't like Snyder and don't like his vision, so I would not be down.
I just feel like whatever that would be, like if you came back to this world in 10 years and like every time kept going, it would just be like a nuclear wasteland disaster. It would be Injustice, basically. It would basically be a worse version of Injustice. Like,
well, we already saw it's that nightmare world.
Oh, I guess we did. Yeah, it would just end up being that.
And I think that's one thing we got to talk about was the nightmare
Oh, yeah, we haven't
sequence.
even touched on that. Oh, my God.
Jared Leto.
Oh.
What the fuck was that performance?
That was really painful.
He was awful. Like,
Oh.
I thought his performance in Suicide Squad was rough, but at least he's trying something. Here, I think the criticism really got to him. And he like just froze and was like, I don't feel comfortable going too far with this.
That was so embarrassing. Like, I kind of understood what they were going for. Like, oh, he was upkempt and like nice and tidy. Now he's sloppy and gross. But like, that felt like just a bad Heath Ledger impersonation.
But not even going far enough. He sounded too much like Leto most of the time. And the dialogue was really bad.
Oh, jeez.
Really bad. The reach around line. Like, part of me is like, that's such a Snyder line. But then part of me is like, that was improv.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that definitely seems like... I mean, that whole moment really did kind of feel like... Yeah, that was the dark future that we could have had with Snyder. Just like, listen to the dialogue and look at these characters in their crappy, dirty coats, like with guns. Like, this is where Snyder wants this all to go.
Well, and... I know that was one of the reshoots. Because, they did reshoots.
Yeah.
And so, why the fuck? You're going to do reshoots. And part of me thinks, like, oh, these are just the people that they could bring in. Because it's a weird mix. It's like Amber Heard.
Yeah, so Mira, Cyborg, Flash.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Flash.
And Batman.
Joker.
I think that's it.
Is that it?
And then they do straight up say that Harley Quinn died.
Yeah, died in Batman's arms.
Yeah, and Aquaman. Like, so yeah, they leave, like, what?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that they don't do a good job enough of explaining. It's almost like they expect that either you yourself or that you're going to be watching with a comic book fan that can then explain, like, okay, so... when Lois Lane dies, Superman goes just insane, and he teams up with Darkseid.
Oh, jeez.
Because, yeah, there's enough to imply these kinds of things, but it is the randomness of because it just, like, throws you into it, and then Batman, like, wakes up and, I can't believe I dreamed that. It's like, why the fuck are you having these dreams? Like, what?
Yeah, they don't think they ever... Because I do know enough about the last movie that Flash comes to him and gives him the vision and all that stuff.
Yes.
But it's like... It seems like it... Yeah, like, why are you now infected with, like, future vision? Like...
Yeah, every aspect of that is just... Well, they've already established that Lois is really important, so why are they still having to learn the lesson of...
They kept
Lois.
saying it over and over again, like, "Oh, Lois is the key.
Yeah.
Lois is really important." It's like, we know, like.
And also, use your words. Go have a conversation with Superman. Tell him he's a reasonable individual. If you tell him, like, we've seen the future where Lois dies and you are so grief-stricken that you go bad, and so all you got to do is put that in his head, and suddenly, he's prepared for it, and he's gonna know. Oh no! If I do go down this path, it's gonna be bad.
Yeah, it's like I don't know how. I guess I don't know how the Cavill Superman would be necessarily, but it's like the comic book Superman straight up gives Batman kryptonite. Like, if I ever go evil, just take me out. Like, so yeah, he's more than willing to do that if he's presented with the notion that he could go bad. Like,
yeah, very strange. Very, I don't know, all over the place. Is there anything else?
Gosh. There's I mean, a lot of those I'll just say this is just a minor point, but it feels like all the character actors and like side characters were so weird. I guess it just fits with how weird everything else felt. But like that whole movie it felt like a fake movie. Like,
yeah, like there's a lot of times it feels like a commercial, like the Cyborg football game, everything about how it's shot, or it's like, what? Oh, we haven't really touched on is the full screen aspect.
Oh yeah, we did the technical side of it.
Like the full screen, it makes you feel like you're watching a CW show with better effects.
Yeah, it just feels like it's about on par with like anything that Disney Plus has put out with like their Star Wars shows or like their Marvel shows. Like, yeah, this is just a really high budget I'm gonna be done in 40 minutes, like, and we're gonna cut to some other show now.
As someone, I'm an editor, and the amount that just adding some black bars to the top and bottom of your screen, well, I'll do it right now. Look at how much more cinematic that looks, just because of the black, making it widescreen. And now we'll bring it back. And that's the only thing that you needed to do to make it more epic. And yet Zack Snyder is like, no, we shot this in IMAX, and the IMAX is 4 stories tall, and so it has to be full screen. And it's like, most people are watching this at home.
He explained it's not like there'd even be confusion over if there would be people seeing it in theaters at that point.
Yeah, because like COVID was still a thing. I think, did they release? I don't
think it ever came out in theaters unless it came out in some special thing. I could see like
I thought they did like a special IMAX for like 2 weeks or something.
Maybe they did.
I can't remember. It happened at a time that I wasn't going to the theater to save my life, so that wasn't happening.
There would be multiple moments in that movie where I could just like close my eyes and nod off and not worry about missing. I could just take breaks in the middle of that movie and come back and get to the parts I actually want.
Yeah, there were definitely a few times where I had to look over and be like, Jason, gotta make sure you're awake. I mean, it's 4 hours and there's so many lulls. So many lulls. There's one where they're like, they're setting up for the big finale, and then suddenly they just like go to this scene with Lois Lane and Clark's mom.
Oh yeah, that was so like, we just kind of, everything slows to a crawl just to have like a nice quiet moment.
And then Clark's mom turns into Martian Manhunter.
I don't understand what, like, if you were making that movie with the idea that people who don't know what comic books are, like, why would you put that in your movie? Like,
well, especially too, like, so that character is technically in Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman.
I remember there being a whole big thing about that.
But he's barely in it, and he's essentially, you wouldn't even know his character name. You would just know like, oh, that's one of the military guys.
It's like a guy that if you looked back, if this all played out and it turned out as Martian Manhunter, it'd be fun to go back and see, oh, he's been hiding out.
Yes.
But then also that whole scene with his mom, like, well, why did you need to role play as Superman's mom? Like, because there's so much emotion and stuff, and it's just like, so you just faked all of that. So you manipulated Lois Lane into doing things.
And it's funny too, because like, especially Lois Lane is also a very reasonable individual. Use your words. Just talk to these people, and they will do what needs to be done. And especially, that's also a big issue in comics in general.
That's true.
Like,
yeah,
comics thrive off of miscommunication.
Yeah, just say something, and this will be fixed.
All it would take is you talking.
But yeah, that, like, the idea that they could have just not had Martian Manhunter in the movie at all, and then teased like Green Lantern. That would make so much more sense. It's just, it feels like, I don't know how much Zack Snyder paid any attention to any of this, but it felt like they were trying to set up like almost like the cartoon, like they're like what people that are like adults now grew up with.
Yeah. And
just not knowing how to get there at all. Like, jeez.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they have any sense of that. The one good thing is that now with James Gunn leading DC, is that a lot of people thought the cosmic side of Marvel was just impossible and that they would never be able to represent it in cinema. Yet, all because of Guardians of the Galaxy that broke everything open. Yeah. So, I mean, hopefully Gunn can do the same for DC in terms of Green Lantern and things like that.
Because that was kind of, I mean, that, if we're as convoluted as that could all be, like, seeing like the alien stuff was kind of neat just because we didn't really get to see that in any of these movies until now, really. Like, I mean, I guess there was like Zod and stuff, but it was like, yeah, like, oh no, this is a whole other culture and like group of people coming to get your stuff. Like,
yeah, that was interesting, and there's much more interesting than what they did in the original version. So I like that, because in the original version there's no Darkseid and it's just Steppenwolf.
Yeah, he just shows up, right?
Yeah. So, and he's not even killed. He's just sent back.
And yeah, I thought that character was okay. It was nice that he did kind of have like a weird sadness to him of like, oh, you're being forced to do this.
Yeah.
Like,
he kind of reminded me a little bit of Ronan the Accuser in Guardians.
I'll tell you, he made me think of the John Travolta character from Battlefield Earth.
Yeah, I could see that. But it's funny too, because not this movie, but the original Justice League came out same year as Infinity War.
Oh yeah, they did.
So it's like, it's really funny to compare like Steppenwolf to Thanos. Or, I mean, obviously with this version, you can compare Darkseid to Thanos and rough. Rough.
Yeah, for how much, and I guess we get a little bit of like there's like a fantasy moment where they imagine him destroying the Justice League.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when we actually see him in action, he gets taken out pretty quickly. Like,
very quickly. He gets like axe to the chest.
Yeah, basically what Thor did to Thanos.
Yeah.
And instead of shrugging it off, he like fell down and almost died.
And instead of like Thanos where he beats most of the Avengers anyway, this is like his first interaction. He gets his ass whooped. I guess he kills Green Lantern, but like this is not. It's not like he's been battling on the battlefield this whole time. It's like, no, it's like the beginning, and he gets his ass whooped.
Yeah, that was for being the first cinematic outing of Darkseid. That was a little weird and underwhelming.
He looked cool at least.
Yeah, the design on him was really neat, and whoever did the voice of him was doing that was really nice.
I don't know who did the voice. That's a good question. I know Ciarán Hinds did Steppenwolf, but yeah, I'm not sure in terms of Darkseid. I don't know. I don't know enough about like DC villains and Darkseid in particular. Jason's the one that told me about Granny Good.
Granny Goodness.
Granny Goodness. No clue who that is, but it looked like she was CGI.
Yeah, that didn't look right. Something looked off there.
I assume it's just because they like didn't want to cast someone.
Oh, yeah.
I would assume, but yeah, it was weird, just strange in general. But yeah, I think we got 53 minutes on this, so we've talked a shitload about the Snyder Cut and some other DC stuff. So I think we should wrap it up. Any closing thoughts on the Snyder Cut of Justice League?
Well, I guess I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah.
I can say I have watched it, and that was like the ending of all of that, I guess. So,
yeah.
So it was good to see how it ended.
You don't want to watch the Justice is Gray version?
I think I'll be good not watching the black and white version of that same movie.
Yeah, I would agree. What would you rate this? Because I think it's a tough. Really tough. I have a hard time with the so bad it's good in terms of rating, because like even if I enjoy something, I still have to like rate it based on quality.
Yeah.
Versus my own dumb enjoyment.
I guess out of 10, I would do like I don't know, probably like a 3.5 or a 4.
Ooh, I'm shocked. He's higher than me. I do enjoy enough of this. I'll say it's a 4. 4 for me. There's just too much bad in it. It's way too long and boring. Snyder is the worst about pacing. His cameo is so stupid.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so dumb. And I think I'm curious if someone's edited this down into a more acceptable length, because that's also the thing in that Batman vs Superman already sets up that that Bruce knows where Arthur and Barry are, and same with Cyborg, so we don't need as much of them going and getting everyone. In fact, you can cut all of the Aquaman stuff out, all of it, until he shows up through the water. That can be his intro. Don't need anything other than that. Same with Barry. You don't need to show him saving Kiersey Clemens or the stuff with his dad. There's that's nice to like build in the world, but in terms of like a narrative to see this story being told, I don't need it in any way whatsoever. So I would, if Warner weren't such assholes about copyright stuff, I would just go in and do an edit myself. But I already know that it wouldn't be worth the time and effort because it would just get taken down. But if there is a version, I will find it and I will send it to you, Jason.
Okay, maybe I will watch that someday.
Yeah, you still gotta watch the
I gotta watch the
Whedon,
Justice League.
Which, hey, Steve do it, so you can watch that with him. We'll watch it. We'll do a Zoom one time. Watch the Justice League.
Do some comparisons.
Yeah, but that's really all. Hope that you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you when we see ya.
See ya.